everybody, James Shepard here with another edition of the Merchant Sales Insight. Head over to ccsalespro.com/insights to check out all of the editions that we've done. I'm having so much fun doing these and working with companies that I believe in. This week, I'm working with Dustin Magaziner, my good friend from PayBright, and we're talking about no merchant left behind. And this is a big theme for Dustin. And the idea is not necessarily high risk, but more of these merchants that are just kind of traditional merchant accounts and they get left behind. You know, you get out there, you generate interest, but because they're too large or too small, or they need too much of a investment up front, or they're locked into a contract, you're not able to get the deal done. And in this edition, we really zero in on the free equipment. And as you all know, I'm very passionate about this. Now, let me be clear. I have no problem with renting, leasing terminals. You know, in my personal opinion, I think all of that stuff, you got to put it in the context of what that merchant needs and the right solution. But I do believe that as an agent, you need to have free equipment options. That needs to be one of the tools in your tool belt. You got to be able to have that option. Otherwise, you are going to lose merchant accounts. Why? Because we don't compete in a vacuum. There are other companies out there competing. You look at companies like Toast. What are they doing? They're giving away like a restaurant's like, hey, we have 7 locations and we need 3 point of sale systems. And each point of sale system costs a couple $1,000s. And Toast is like, oh, sure, we'll give you all that for free. Then our industry comes along and we're saying, you know, we're going to try to sell this merchant and tell them, yeah, well, with us, you just need to pay us $15,000, $20,000 and we'll do the same thing Toast is doing for free. It's not going to work, okay? We got to be ready to compete. So free equipment, right? What's happening in our industry right now with free equipment? As a general rule right now, most ISOs have these criteria in place or these restrictions. If you want to offer a free terminal, the merchant's got to be doing $10,000 a month, right? Well, what if they're doing $30,000 a month and they need 2 free terminals? Oh, we don't do that. Well, what if they have 3 locations? 2 of them are doing $15,000 a month. 1 of them is only doing $9,000 a month. Oh, well, we'll provide a free terminal to 2 of the 3 locations, but not the 3rd one. It doesn't make any sense, okay? Ultimately, are we going to make money on this account or not? Then layer on top of that the idea of cash discounting, dual pricing, where the profitability of these accounts is insanely high. I just talked to a brand new rep. She just sold her first deal, $10,000 a month, okay? Sold it on dual pricing. She's probably going to make $100 a month in residual on that account. She made like $600 up front, and she's going to make $100 a month in residual. When I started selling in this industry, a $10,000 a month account, I'd have been lucky to make $20, $30. Okay? Cash discounting has made them way more profitable. What does that mean for free equipment? It means that we can justify an investment, right? Like, what if they need a couple of terminals? Who cares? The account's going to generate $100 a month for her, probably $100 a month for the processor, right? So if they have to invest $500 in 2 free terminals, well, the processor is going to make their money back in 5 months. That's crazy. Any other industry would be falling all over themselves trying to make these investments in order to generate a return of like, 400% a year. I mean, it's insane. So here's what I would challenge you to do. If you are an ISO, rethink your strategy around free equipment, okay? Not just the free terminals, but from a larger picture, look at the overall profitability. That's what PayBright's doing. That's what Dustin has done. And that's what's really allowed them, I think, a big part of what's accelerated their growth. These agents come to them and say, hey, I'm not going to be exclusive with you. I've got my other processor, but I've got this deal. One of the deals I talk about in the Merchant Sales Insight that I thought was so cool, an agent had this deal. Now get this. He has a deal that, and I don't know the exact numbers. You have to look at the insight, but it was I think a 15 location veterinarian clinic. Okay. Every one of these clinics used 5 Clover Flex devices. Okay. So they had just bought Clover Flexes from their bank. And this agent's trying to, flip them. And they're like, well, that's fine, but we're not going to pay for these Clover Flexes again. It was like $20,000. And the agent's like, okay, so he brought it to his processor and said, hey, I've got this deal, cash discount deal, okay? And I think they were doing a total of like $6 million a month in processing volume across these 15 locations. So do the math on this, $6 million a month, cash discount deal. This is a very, very profitable account, like thousands and thousands of dollars a month. And brought it to their processor, and the processor rejected the deal. They said, oh, no. We can't buy $20,000 worth of Clover Flexes for this merchant. That's out of the question. We're not going to make that investment. So he brings it to Dustin at PayBright, and Dustin runs a number. I can just envision this in my head of him running the numbers in about 3 seconds and saying, yes, So they make this investment. They spend, over $20,000 on hardware. The agent signs this account up. Dustin breaks even in a matter of months. because the account is so profitable. Meanwhile, the agent has like a life-changing account that's making him huge amounts of money in residual. And again, you can all run the numbers in your head and figure it out. So this is the stuff I'm talking about. I don't know the details. I don't know which processor rejected that deal, but if you're watching this video, you need to adjust your capital, your capital strategies here, okay? Or you need to go find some money. But the idea here is if we want to be competitive, we have to be willing to make these investments to get these deals done. So we got to think about it differently. We got to think about things like break-even point, okay? Break-even point on upfront investment for cost of acquisition should be like 6 to 18 months. Okay. So as an agent, this number, if you understand this number, it's going to really, really help you to negotiate with your processor and with the merchant. Okay. Let's say you have an account and let's say it's going to generate, to make the math easy, it's going to generate $100 in profitability. You're at a 50% split. So you're getting $50 a month. Your processor's getting $50 a month. And let's say that this merchant, in order to close the deal, they want a free point of sale system. And that point of sale system is going to cost $1,500. All right. For you to go to your processor, your ISO, and say, hey, I need $1,500 to get this account. I need this free equipment. That's unrealistic. Why? Because it's going to take them 30 months to get their money back. That's too long. Okay. That's too long. They're not going to go for that. Right. So what you might need to do is you might need to say, hey, look, either talk to the merchant, get them to pay a little bit. You pay a little bit. Something needs to change because that's too far out break even. Okay. Now, what about you go to an account and it's going to generate, let's say it's going to generate $1,000 a month in profit, which is not unusual at all now with this dual pricing and cash discounting. So it's going to generate $1,000 a month and you're at a 50% split. So you're getting 500, the processor's getting 500 and they need $2,500 worth of equipment. All right. If your processor says no to that, that's unacceptable. That's ridiculous. They're going to break even in 5 months. That's crazy. Like that's really, really good. So those are the deals where make sure you don't lose that deal. You need to go back to your processor and say, look, what's the problem? Your break-even point is going to be in five months. Like what's the issue here, right? So understand that break-even point. That's the language that the finance people in our industry use when they're evaluating deals. Now, one reason that they might still turn a deal down though, is because of a fear of attrition. You also have to be able to answer the question of what happens when a merchant cancels, right? Who owns the equipment at that point? Do you get the equipment back? Does the merchant just keep it and you just lost all that money? So you have to think through that a bit. So these are considerations to keep in mind, but I do want to go back to PayBright for a second and talk about what they're doing because I think it's really interesting. So the way they approach free equipment is really simple. If the deal makes sense, they're going to do the deal. Now, they actually don't do contracts. They never raise prices. They have all these things they do to take these barriers away. But they understand that their attrition is going to be really low as a general rule if they're placing equipment with a merchant that is a larger merchant. That's the thing that's crazy about it. The merchants that need a $10,000 investment in equipment to close the deal, often those are the most profitable merchants and the least likely to cancel because they're probably doing $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 a month. They're very profitable and they're going to be in business for a long time. It's the small ones where you place the $400 terminal and they're only doing $4,000 or $5,000 a month. The ones that are going to go out of business in 3 months and you're not going to get your terminal back. So what I would really encourage you to do is a couple things here. If you're an agent, make sure your processor is giving you free equipment options. I'm not saying always do free equipment, but free equipment options. Okay. You need to have that tool needs to be in your belt. Excuse me. If you're an ISO, you need to think more strategically about capital and your deployment of capital. We've been so spoiled for years. It's like agents go out, they make sales. It doesn't cost us anything. We pay them a percentage of the profits. We keep a percentage of the profit. Our cost of acquisition is like zero. It's great, or even for some is like we're leasing terminals. And so we're actually making money when we make an account, make a sale. The market is shifting. I'm not saying that model is dead, but I'm saying the market is shifting. And if you don't see that, you're blind. And as the market shifts, you need to make sure you're prepared, make sure you have capital to deploy, and make sure you have good programs to deploy that capital to get these accounts boarded. My name is James Shepard. Thanks for watching and listening to this week's Merchant Sales Insight.